Sync sound, is it from your system or is it some?
Okay. Just let me know if it goes, because maybe this fan which was running, maybe it gives us some sound. If it's better now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine now.
Yeah. Okay. I think then that's the one.
Okay.
I have to look within, brother, for the fault.
Or maybe the connector.
Uh, no, if it is okay now, I think it's the same here.
Slight, but it's okay now. This is not more than earlier. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
fine.
So, brothers and sisters, let's give 2-3 minutes more. People are joining in, and we'll start in 2-3 minutes from now. Until that, as our Persian philosopher says, Rumi, silence is the only language that God speaks, and rest all is poor translation. So let's go within and contemplate while we await the starting of the session. Another 2-3 minutes. Some brothers and sisters will be joining. We had a extended Aradhana Day celebration yesterday until night, all over, and so in Singapore.
Sairam Bindu, brother, am I audible?
Sairam, brother Siddharth, yes, absolutely, you are audible perfectly, and
So,
yes, lovely to have you, brother. It's beautiful. I think we all are waiting for the nectar after the Anubhava Manthan that you are going to do.
okay, that's up to Swami. He has to take care.
Absolutely, he will. He will.
Okay, just one thing is I'm still not able to view everybody. I'm only able to see you. Even if I use the grid view, it is still everybody is coming on the top. There's a ribbon.
So,
I'm just
brother, yeah. So you can drag some of them onto the main screen, and then they appear on your screen.
oh, okay, very nice.
Just try to drag them. Some of them will be with the video on, some of them with not with the video on. Are you able to do that, brother?
Yeah, I'm just doing it.
Okay.
Uh, this is nice. Yeah, now I'm able to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Unlike Zoom, maybe this system Skype has got some limitation. Zoom automatically does it.
Yeah, yeah. No issues. Absolutely
Yeah.
no issues.
Sadhan is not important. Sadhya is important. Yeah.
I can also pin myself on the grid. I don't know because
You should be able to. Uh,
choose. No, I'm not
I can
seeing.
see you very well. We all can see you
Okay.
uh, absolutely clear and loud. Another 1 minute, brother, and then we start with Onkar and a couple of slides just to go through before you take over.
Sure, sure. Definitely.
Thanks.
Saira.
Saira. All right, Sairam, brothers and sisters, let's start the session today with 3 Onkar and 3 times Sai Shvarai Vidmahe. And then we go on to a couple of slides, introduce our brother Siddharth, and we move on with this absolutely divine, blissful journey. I request everyone, those who will not be speaking, to put the mics on mute. And as and when you wish to, you can raise your hand as is in the screen, and then you can put up your question or clarification or request. Saira. Om. Om. साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शांति शांति शांति। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघते गिरिं यत्कृपातमं वंदे परमानंद माधवम। ओ स्वामी, please think through me, feel through me, speak through me, act through me. Sai Ram. Sai Ram, brothers and sisters, a warm welcome to this beautiful Sunday satsang. Before we get on to the nectar, the divine nectar that awaits us in this session, just a couple of slides to go through. We just had Aradhana Mahotsavam yesterday, celebrated globally across the Sai family, and we all immersed in that bliss. But something which also reminded me, and so-called, I think, all of us, from the word why Aradhana was particularly so prominent in all these years that we have been celebrating. So sometimes we get lost in what is the highest dhana, and I felt that this Aradhana gave us this meaning that the biggest dhana is sadhana. When we do a sadhana in the form of Aradhana for our Janardhana, which today we'll be fortunate to listen through Brother Siddharth. Yeah, and that is how I perceive the word Aradhana led me into that. One of the biggest dhana in these three dhana is sadhana, Aradhana, and for Janardhana. Moving on, in the bi-weekly Sunday vaccine that we have been taken for years since the COVID started, to tune into Bhagavan, to tune into his messages, using satsang as the Sai Google to find the path that we have perhaps got lost into this chaotic world, especially into these troubling times. And while in Sunday, a lot of us are busy with the selfies, ignoring the true self in the selfie and prominently looking at the eye, Swami is waiting for that selfie moment even with us, right? And that moment is going to reconnect as we sit down today to immerse in his bliss in the forthcoming talk that Brother Siddharth is going to render. Are we ready to connect? It's important. We got to sit with the mind and the hearts completely focused. There is some disconnect. That is why we need these Swamis created Vivekanandas. Swami students are like Vivekanandas all over the world, globally placed to enhance the spiritual consciousness, raise the vibration. So there is a disconnect. Swami is trying to call and we are not able to listen to it. Perhaps the SIM card is not there. SIM, as it says, is Sai in me, SIM. And Brother Siddharth is going to help us to reload that SIM, which perhaps we have not done it, to put that Sai app and help us to reconnect, restore, reload, and relive those Sai moments. A small introduction, though poverty of words engulf me as I try to introduce Brother Siddharth. Gems of Sai, institutions as Bhagavan has rolled out into this world. Brother Siddharth was born in a Sai family, a fourth generation devotee. So you can understand the richness of the experience, Anubhava, Anugraha, and the nichod that this family has for generations. So he is the fourth generation of Sai devotees, basking into Sai glory, being a Sai student from 1995 till 2002. And he had the great opportunity to also speak in presence of Bhagavan, play tabla into the Prashanti Mandir bhajans. Currently working at Tata Sons as a Deputy General Manager, Strategy and Comparative Intelligence Practice. He's been an active member and we have all seen him. I especially remember last year when COVID tried to overcome and, overpower the COVID concept. COVID was prevalent. Brother Siddharth, with his efforts and Bhagwan's blessing through him, flew as he arranged a lot of these web sessions, Samarpan series talks through Mumbai. and it was really like the Sai vaccines that we are looking for. So the Sai vaccine that we have been taking is going to get the second and the most prominent shot today. These are basically, if you want to have some discussion, please raise your hand. Otherwise, he's going to share his experiences. We request you to put your videos on if you can, because that helps the speaker also to connect really well. And let's enjoy this insight as I hand over to Brother Siddharth, who's joining us from Mumbai, to help us relive, reconnect, and rejoin into this journey. Over to you, Brother Siddharth. Sai Ram, and a very happy welcome to you.
Yeah, Sai Ram, loving Sai Rams, and very blessed morning. Hope I'm audible, visible still.
Yes. You are, brother. Absolutely.
Okay. So offering my humble and prayerful salutations to our beloved Swami. And as you rightly said, I pray to him to use this being as his instrument to speak to all of us. I'll also be in a listening mode with you people. And then, whatever divine message he wants us to bless us with on this auspicious day, I request him and pray to him to please take charge and perform to us, all of us. And let us enjoy together his divine glory, divine message, and lot of things which he has suggested to speak on. So we will share that, and I pray to Swami to take charge and do it. A very warm welcome. I know it's 11:30 in Singapore, it's 9 a.m. in India, or it's 9:10 in India. And I have a difficult task that to complete the entire satsang in 1.5 hours and to talk about somebody who has no beginning and no end. So it is a very difficult task given to me to finish it. And one more difficult task is it's going to end probably 1 p.m. in Singapore, which is just before lunch. So I'm only praying to Swami that hunger pangs should not trouble you till the session is over, and we will be able to kind of have a undisturbed focus mind on this. So also very, very interesting introduction. I haven't come across this style of introduction, which is tech oriented and kind of showing the different ways of explaining the entire the plan that we have for next 1.5 hours. So, heartfelt gratitude to Brother Bindu for giving me this opportunity to share whatever I've learned at Bhagwan's Lotus Feet, and also heartfelt gratitude to all of you. In fact, the entire Sai family. There are a few people also joined from India and the entire Singapore Sai family as well, for giving me this opportunity, because I think more than any of you, the biggest beneficiary is myself. Because over the last few days, I've been constantly thinking about Swami and all the experiences, all the messages that he wants us to kind of ruminate today. So the entire journey till now has been absolutely nectarine and blissful. So heartfelt gratitude to all of you for this opportunity. Before we begin, while it is a Sunday, it is also important for us to pause and see where we are today. It's not just a Sunday, it's also a day when lot of people in the world celebrate Mahavir Jayanti. So Mahavir Jayanti is the birthday of Lord Mahavira, the 24th and the last Tirthankara of the Jainism, and today is his birthday. So it's a auspicious day. I think all the divine masters, we are very blessed as humanity to have such divine masters who have been constantly guiding each one of us in different ways, to think about God and his message and to go on the path of truth. So it's an auspicious day of birthday of God. Besides this, also over the last few days, we have been celebrating a lot of New Years, especially in India. I mean, Ugadi and Gudi Padwa, where Maharashtra, Karnataka, Goa has been celebrating. Even Andhra Pradesh in India have celebrated their New Years. Then we had Vishu, which is New Year for Kerala, and Tamil New Year as well over the last few days. So lot of new, and obviously Cheti Chand for Sindhis. So absolutely, we are in a very blissful period, which is right now we are experiencing, with so many New Years being kind of being celebrated. Besides this, in fact, also in the beginning of this month, we also had Good Friday and Easter Sunday. So the entire resurrection of Lord Jesus on Easter Sunday is also a very auspicious sign, which is telling us that, God doesn't go anywhere. You may take away the body. We are actually just celebrating, or rather we are just going through an Aradhana Mahotsavam. So body may go because it's temporary, but God is always with us. And that's what Easter Sunday, symbolizes for us. And so also Aradhana Day. We also have ongoing currently the Ramzan month, till 13th of May, when we'll be having the Ramzan Eid. So it's an auspicious time again for the people who are following the Islam faith also. So Ramzan month, Easter Sunday, then we have so many New Years, Mahavir Jayanti. We also have Chaitra Navratri, which we culminated into Ram Navami, just few days ago on 21st of April. And finally, we are awaiting Buddha Purnima on 26th of May, which is exactly a month from today. So practically these 2 months that we are, right now in the midst of it, it's across faiths, everybody is celebrating, the divinity, the divine aspect, the divinity, all of them who have been showing the path of truth to humanity. And that's why it is even more auspicious, not just a Sunday or just an Aradhana day. In fact, yesterday when I was ruminating and I asked Swami that, where are we today? And then he said, look at all the faiths. Everybody is enjoying the divine, the energy which is around us. So while on the one side, we are all afflicted by COVID, but on the other side, all the gods are working 24/7 in our language. For them, there is no time and space, but ensuring that we go through this very, very beautiful, very auspicious and nectarine period in the entire calendar that we have. So that is where we stand today. And not just celebrating these moments. In fact, a lot of people say Aradhana Day is, a kind of a solemn occasion or a painful period. I think we need to kind of graduate, which, beyond, and say that God actually expanded himself from being just a 5 feet 3 inch human body. And he actually, on this day, he came to live with us in our homes. Because if you look at our mindset all the time, if you want to have darshan, go to Puttaparthi. Till 24th April 2011. But now what he says, if you want to have darshan, be in your home. And that's what COVID also has been making us remember. Be in your home, because I'm sitting right in your home. So our homes have become Prashanthi Nilayam on this day 10 years ago. And that's why it's actually not just solemn. It's a very, very special period for all the Sai family members. That on this day, God expanded into multiple number of, divine personalities who can kind of live in our house with us as a family member. So it's not a solemn occasion. Let's not kind of look at it as a solemn occasion. It's a very special occasion for each one of us, where God said, from now onwards, I'll live with you in your house as a family member. And that's why today is that, that auspicious time that we are all coming together. So this is where we are today. We stand today at this auspicious moment. Before I get into details, there is one thought which I want to start with. And after that, I'll pause for a few seconds, because it's important that we need to absorb this. Some of you who would have, attended my past sessions, it will be repetition, but it's worth remembering at this moment. There are 5 key things. 5 key things. When they come together in our lives, it signifies the manifestation of all the merits of all the past births coming together in this lifetime. 5 key things, if they're happening to you today in this life, it signifies the manifestation of all the merits, that is all the punyas, all the good work that we have done in all the past births, ever since the soul got into, the incarnation and reincarnation one after another. What are those 5 things? First, we are born as a human being. Unfortunately, what happens is, because we are in the busy lives, we forget this important blessing that we are born as a human being. And God himself said, you are the crown jewel of my creation. And if I have to quote Swami and quote the Upanishads and Shastras, it's very clearly said, Jantu Nam Nara Janma Durlabham. Among all the species, to have a Nara Janma is very rarest of the rarest blessings. So moment we have got a human body today, It's a first blessing that we have got in this lifetime. Okay, it may sound very simple, very easy, because we have been used to, we are living as a human being, we have taken it for granted, but it's a rare blessing. Second thing is the mind. Our mind is showing steady interest in God. Steady interest in God. You may call it whichever God. See, this session is not going to be restricted only to Swami as God, because that's why I gave that context that all the divinity, all the divine masters are with us today in this auspicious period. Pick any God which is most closest to our heart. And if our mind is showing steady interest in God, be it Jesus, be it Allah, be it Mahavira, be it Buddha, be it Zoroaster, be it, even Jews, any religion we pick up, whichever God is most closest to our heart, if our mind is showing a steady interest in that God or divinity, that's the second important thing happening today. Third aspect is we are born at the same time when God or a divine master or a divine being is present on earth. Okay, mark this. You are born at the same time when God or divinity is present on earth. Okay, fourth thing, you come to know about that presence of God and the divine master. Again, I'm not restricting to Swami per se. Any gods and gurus, in fact, the entire world, Swami, once in the interview room, one of the VIPs asked Swami that, there is so much of negativity in the world. It's not today's time. It is, negativity in the olden times when lot of negative, all kinds of, ahimsa, adharma is going on. And how will, Bharat, which Swami used to call as a spiritual engine, how will this Bharat pull this world out of it? And Swami just said, you don't know, Bharat is divine place because it's a Devbhumi. He said, Devbhumi Bharat, because this country or this nation is infested. He uses the word infested with divine masters, divine beings. Infested means gully at every nook and corner, at every time and space, there is divinity present. And that's why it's a spiritual engine. So we come to know the presence of the divine master and the God. Okay, and important is without his will, we cannot even think of him. So the fact that all of us have come together on this Sunday, keeping aside all other priorities, apparent priorities in our life, is we can think about God or Swami or him only after his permission. Without his will, it's not possible for us to think about it. Second thing also, Swami says, when you think about me, always remember I'm thinking about you. So Bhagwan has chosen to think about us, and that's why we are here together to think about it. So the fourth blessing is you come to know about the presence of God and the divine master. Fifth, you get a chance to be closer to him, to be nearer and dearer to him, to enjoy his darshan, sparshan and sambhashan. So if all these five things are happening, okay, I'm just recollecting, you are born as a human being, number one. Number two, your mind is showing steady interest in God or divinity. Number three, you're born at the same time when God or divine being is present on earth. Number four, you come to know about that presence of God and the divine master on earth. There are a lot of people, even, in Swami's times, we have 7 billion population. Not everybody has got to know about Swami. If you still go and hunt out, you just go out and shout out to people, how many know Satya Sai Baba? There will be very few hands who may go up. So you come to know about the presence of God or the divine master. And finally, you get a chance to have darshan, sparshan and sambhashan of the divine master. If all five things are happening in our present life, in this moment, be rest assured that the manifestation of all the merits of all past births are coming together at this moment. Just think about it. I'm going to take a few seconds pause. Because it's important that we digest this. There's no ordinary thing that is happening to us currently in this life. Isn't it? Some of us would have gone through this, would have got to know about it in the past. But I just thought this is an important time that we need to stop, pause a bit from that hectic activities also that we go through and just ruminate about these 5 things. Imagine all the punyas of all the past life, we are actually right now reaping the benefit of it. So after knowing this, suppose we keep quiet. You say, "Okay, it's okay, good, let me enjoy life. I would have done something good, so I'm enjoying my life." And if we don't end up doing anything about it, you know, some of us who are either finance professionals or accounts, or even people who are not in finance, we manage our personal finances, right? So we begin, there's something called carry forward in the next year. So if you exhaust all the merits of this life and you begin the next incarnation, we don't know whether it's human being, depends upon what karmas we have done, either human being, hopefully, but even if it is human being, we would have actually started from a zero balance, because all the good karmas of all the manifestations have already happened in this life. If we don't do anything about it, there is a risk of starting a next life or next year in our accounting parlance from a zero balance. Okay, this is the self-rumination we need to do. That's why I said let's have a pause. It's not that we are not doing anything about in this life, but it's important to pause and just ruminate about it. Okay, now having said this, what else can we do? One is this realization Bhagwan has given us that all the good merits you are actually enjoying, because it's not easy to be close to an avatar. It's not easy to have his darshan when, you know, millions of years when the saints and sages in the Himalayas, they actually struggle to get one glimpse of God. We have got multiple glimpses of God, or maybe we would have got chance to have his darshan, sparshan and sambhashan very comfortably. So question is, what do we do next from here on? Yes, we are doing all the sadhanas, we are doing Narayan Seva, we are doing study circle, we are doing this kind of a satsang, we are doing Bal Vikas, everything we are doing, which is very good as Bhagwan himself has guided. But one important thing that we need to carry home after this session is, having got all these advantages in our life, we need to build that relationship with God. Extremely important. This is a once in a million lifetimes opportunity. Because a lot of people ask, what is the advantage of an avatar in your life? Because the 5 things we narrated, out of which 3 of them are actually connected to an avatar or a divine master, right? We are born at the same time, we come to know about him, we become closer to him. These 3 out of 5 are connected to the divine presence, which all of us more or less have got the chance to be. So all of us are actually reaping the benefits of all the punyas that we have done. How do we kind of multiply the effect from here? That's the main important thing for us. How do we multiply this opportunity? It's so important thing is, while we do all kinds of activities, all kinds of seva, one important thing, the biggest benefit of an avatar coming on earth is, can we build a relationship with him? Extremely important. Building a relationship with God is the most important benefit that we can take from a Satya Sai avatar or a divine avatar or a divine manifestation that we see in our lives. Okay, pause and reflect. How do we build that relationship with God? And the biggest benefit of this is, in its, again, look from a selfish angle. We invest everything in our life, invest time, money, energy, efforts, everything, our skills, everything that we do, we are investing. We are investing time, we are investing money, we are investing energy, we are investing thoughts, we are investing everything of ours in this life. But if you invest in God, the returns are permanent and eternal. If we invest in the world, as Swami says, if we invest in the world, it's temporary. Till this life extends, is there, fine, we're investing in our jobs, in our careers, in our money, assets, whatever bank balance is. The investment is still that much only, till we have a body. Once we leave the body, it's over. But when we invest in God, we carry forward in millions of lifetime till we achieve liberation. So if we count return on investment, as we always look at for our finances, the return of investment in God is the highest asset class we can think of. It's a eternal, permanent, and maximum returns we get from this investment in the relationship with God. Isn't it? ROI in investment in God is the highest. And that's why, having said all the 5 things that we currently are witnessing in our lives, enjoying Bhagwan's videos, enjoying bhajans, enjoying Narayan Seva, this will have a manifold multiplier effect in our life if we are able to develop that connection with God, develop that relationship with God. Because even after we pass away from this life, once we have established that relationship with God, from then onwards, He is going to be with us, even beyond this life, even in the next life, in case the reincarnation is there for us, He is going to hold our hands forever till this soul, reaches the highest state of liberation. So imagine how beneficial it is for us to develop this relationship with God. Okay, so that is something which I thought that it's important we pause and ruminate. And now question is, how do we build this relationship with God? And that's what the main topic is. God and man, the everlasting love story, ever written. Okay, there are multiple love stories we hear in the media, in the movies, in the novels. Those are all love stories, has its own disadvantages, because it's always important to demarcate, a love story between 2 human beings. After a certain period, it goes down. But a love story with God, it always goes up. That's why I said the benefits, the return on investment and the benefits. I'm deliberately using the word return on investment because sometimes our mind is very selfish. It tries to look at what is in it for me. What is in it for me? Why am I supposed to do this? So that's why I'm using the deliberate word of return on investment. But a larger game is, if we are having a love story with God, it is only going to increase at every moment. That is guaranteed. And that is what I'm going to, share some of the experiences, because I thought just merely sharing experiences with all of us, it's not going to be, it will going to be a spiritual entertainment. And after a couple of hours or so, maybe after 2 days, depends upon our memory, it will all be gone. But what do we carry home? It's very important from today. So one thing is, those 5 things are very important. We need to count our blessings, that we are extremely blessed people on earth for having those 5 things in our life. Second thing is, having these blessings of platform of very powerful foundation of our life. If you are able to develop that relationship with God, we'll have a multiple benefits from here on. Now, third question is, how do we build that relationship? So again, Swami himself guides. There are 4 steps to it, 4 stages. Okay, 4 stages of it. Most of us would have heard it in different, forums or different ways. So what are the 4 stages? 1, Salokyam. 2nd, Samipyam. 3rd, Sarupyam. And 4th, Sayujyam. Okay, there are 4 stages in our relationship with God. Now, question is, what does all this sa mean? Sa means basically divine. But Salokyam means break into 2 parts. Sa means divine and Lokya means in the same planet or a same situation. Just what we said, we are born at the same time when God or divine master is present. So Salokyam is the first stage. We are on the same planet when God was there, and God in fact continues to exist though He doesn't have a body. So all of us have actually got this stage done, because we are born at a time when that God or divine master was present. So Salokyam is given. First stage, all of us have crossed it. Second stage in the relationship is Samipyam, when we become nearer and dearer to God. Samipyam, Samip is basically a Sanskrit word which basically says closer and closer to the divinity. So Samipyam, becoming near and dear to God, which is where we will talk a lot about in today's session. Sarupyam is the third stage. As we become more and more closer to God, we naturally start acquiring the divine qualities. The divine qualities of an avatar himself. His qualities, his purity, his thought process, his approach to life. And that's why I said it's the biggest blessing that we have got an avatar with us who can be used as a benchmark in our life, a template in our life, how to lead a life. And that's why Swami says, my life is my message. Imagine if there's no Swami, there's no avatar. It's very difficult for us to know, we'll be lost. How do I lead a life? What should I be doing? What should be my priorities? But because of presence of an avatar in our life, that's why it's the biggest advantage is Sarupyam. Sarupyam is basically helping us to acquire his divine qualities. So after Samipyam, as we go more and more closer, Sarupyam comes as a third stage. After that, the finale is Sayujyam, when we and God become one. There's a merger in the God, and God says, come my child, you are no longer separate from me, I and you are one. Which in many times in our case, Swami has already told, I and you are one. The only difference is we need to realize to that state. So God has reached the fourth level of relationship with all of us, but we are still at the level 1 or maybe level 2 to some extent. So these are the 4 stages that we need to look at while building a relationship with God. Okay, any questions? I would just pause. If I know it is, I think we are 34 of us, but any questions, any clarifications required? Because after this, then we get into the deep experiences at each of these levels.
I think, Brother Siddharth, it's a beautiful flow the way you have started and put across the thing. It's making us more and more clear and realize how blessed we have been to have, and unfortunate to have forgotten what we already have. And it's kind of a rust remover. This session is to remove all that, the dust in the mirror, and understand what you have said, especially Salokyam, Samipyam, Sarujyam. So this is something which is going to help people to understand they are already blessed. We are all already blessed, and how we enhance this more, amplify this more. So I think it's pretty clear, brother.
Great. Thanks for that feedback, because unless we are clear, it doesn't make sense to move to the next level, and it just becomes then little indigestion as we move ahead. So if this is very clear and this is where we are, and all of us obviously are keen to build that relationship with God, and that's why we are here in this session. So these are the 4 very clear stages Swami himself has provided to all of us. And Salokyam is already done. So we are blessed that we are already in the same time. Now let's focus on 2 things. One is Samipyam and finally Sarupyam. So today's session, we'll all be talking about these 2 areas only. Because Salokyam is done. Sayujyam, that is merger with the Lord, can only be achieved by his grace. He takes the initiative. When he says, come my child, I and you are one and the same. And that mergence, the final Sayujyam happens by his. That automatically he takes care. It is very limited that we can participate, but our entire efforts has to be in Samipyam and Sarupyam. These 2 are the most important. And between these 2, Samipyam is the most important stage in this entire relationship with God. Because through Samipyam, Sarupyam happens to us. And because we have gone so close to God and we are acquiring his qualities, Sayujyam, God takes care of it. So entire session now we will speak a lot on Samipyam and a bit of Sarupyam. Some instances in my life that have happened in terms of what that Samipyam is and how it can help us to build relationship. And Sarupyam, eventually, some starking things which I came across in my life and I never realized, that Sarupyam also happens to us. So I'll explain those and share some of the experiences with us. Okay, there is a message on the chat. There is too much of echo. I don't know if we are in a position to minimize that. Okay, I think I'll continue for want of time. Maybe Brother Bindu can take care of the echo part if it is okay. Okay, so now one thing, having said all this, Swami always says, we have heard this again million times. Swami says, take 1 step towards me and I'll take 10 steps towards you. And as human beings we have added a couple of more zeros to it. Okay, Swami will take 100 steps towards us. Swami will take 1,000 steps towards us. We have increased the work of Swami and we are still not taking that 1 step. So irrespective of the zeros, Swami very clearly says, take 1 step towards me and I will take 10 steps towards you. the original quote of Swami. Now the question is, what is that first step? Give a thought. What is that first step that we need to take towards God? And it is very easy. It is very simple. It's not a rocket science or not some philosophy. It is something that once you know the answer, you'll say, oh, this is something which is so easy. But it's not. Some of us are practicing, some of us are not. So what is that one step towards me when he says, take one step towards me and I'll take 10 towards you? What is that one step we need to kind of look at?
Brother Bindu, you have muted him. Hello.
Sairam, brother, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, okay. Sorry. I don't know till where you heard this.
No, not very far. Just now. Just a couple of seconds, few seconds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you heard that question, that take one step. What is that first step
Yes.
we need to take towards God? Okay. So again.
Naam Smaran, I feel.
Okay, Naam Smaran. See, thing is, that's a very good answer. So Naam Smaran, I'll extend that to say Narayan Seva or meditation, study circle, satsang, etc. So entire spiritual activities, set of activities, can take one step and I'll take 10. Answer is fair enough, but many times we come across consistency is not there. A lot of people ask this question that I'm doing this, but I'm not able to maintain the consistency. So there's something more which is more subtler than this. These are activities which are important. There is something more subtler than this, which can ensure we are consistently doing those activities towards reaching that God, the Divine Master. To cut it short, I will say the answer is very simple. Question is, do we have interest in God? Do we have a constant communication with God to make him part of everything we do? Yes. But more subtler, I hope I'm audible right now. There
yes,
is no challenge.
Absolutely.
More subtler than all of these is, do we have interest in God? Now, next question can come naturally. That's why I'm here. I'm listening to this. I'm doing a lot of spiritual activities. So, one answer Bhagwan himself has given is, what kind of interest in God we should have? When we say, do we have that, one step is not a rocket science. One step is asking ourselves, am I sincerely interested in Swami? Am I sincerely interested in God? And then Swami himself says, what kind of interest that has to be? In our list of priorities that we have in life, do we place God on the number one in the list of priorities? If you have number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, it actually doesn't mean anything. It as good as God is not. If God is not priority for us, and we are not interested in God. It is that kind of standard which Swami is looking at. Do we have interest in Swami? Do we keep him in the priority list? If yes, fantastic. We are almost kind of reaching there of Samipyam also. If it is no, then we will have these challenges of consistency, have these challenges of, I'm doing in bits and pieces. Sometimes I'm able to participate, sometimes I let it go. It's not that we may have other compulsions. That's also fine. But still, when we keep God as a priority, there are many instances where God makes way for us because he is priority to us. Once we make him as a priority, he'll make way for us to attend all the programs, all the activities, and our internal progress towards reaching him, the Samipyam will start happening. Which is the foundation of Samipyam is, when we want to be nearer and dearer to the God, are we really interested? Are we really hungry for it? are we really kind of, if I use the worldly term of passion, are we passionate about God? Though Swami doesn't like passion word, because passion is rajasic quality. But still, do we have that intense interest, desperation for God? That is a foundation to entire Samvipyam that we're looking at. Let me give you one experience. Let me share this experience. Once in Kodaikanal, after the lunch session, I don't know how many of you have seen the videos. Maybe you would have seen the videos of Kodaikanal where during the day there are 3 or 4 sessions that Swami sits with students. So one of the days, after the lunch, Swami's session was to happen, and obviously Swami was seated on the chair in that room where normally sessions happen. It's a small room, and a lot of boys who came, and obviously they sat. So 30-40 odd students, and there are some senior devotees and VIPs and trustees who were there in that session. And Swami just asked this question that anybody has any doubt? Many times, Swami wants to answer some of the, or share some of the important messages to us. He asked this question: do you have anybody has any doubt? So one boy, with a lot of hesitation, because to asking question to Swami is not easy. So he just raised his hand a little bit. Said, Swami, I have got a doubt. So then Swami asked, what is the doubt? So he said, Swami, how to be closer to you? How to be nearer to you? How to be dearer to you? So Swami smiled at him and said, and see, all these divine masters, they don't answer straight away, because sometimes we are not in a position to absorb it. So they use analogies, they use anecdotes, they use certain examples, like Chinnakatha types, which helps us to understand the concept better. So as in this session also, Swami said, see, right now, all of us are seated in this session. Means I'm talking about a Kodaikanal. Just visualize Kodaikanal, Swami sitting on the chair, a lot of students around him. And there are a few students, after lunch, they actually came running to occupy the first place. Because, normally people who sit next to Swami's chair immediately, sometimes Swami also puts his feet on their legs. So people get chance to actually do Path Seva. So there are some students, Swami says, there are some students who came running to occupy the first place. There are some students who said, fine, let me finish my lunch properly. After that, I'll go. So it depends upon the level of how much you are desperate for God. Accordingly, you will run towards God. So people who are really desperate, and there are a lot of students who are, all of us, some of us definitely would be, who actually sacrificed the lunch midway and ran to get the first place. So that is where Swami said, if you are interested in me, then you will be nearer and dearer to me, because you're giving me the first priority. You're letting go of everything else, but I want God. Come what may, everything is okay, but first is God. So all those people who came running to me, they got a first place. The people who are a little easy, we'll see later, it's okay, let me finish my thing. Other things I'll definitely be on time, but I'll be kind of, finish my other things, other priorities of life. They will be sitting somewhere in middle, third row, fourth row, maybe the last row, depends. So this is very beautifully, Swami himself answered this, that if you are having that interest in me, you're willing to give me the first priority, then you will be nearer and dearer to me, which is exactly is what Samipyam is. And that's why this concept of take one step, what is that one step? I don't know in how many forums this very fundamental thing is discussed. But this one step is very simple. Do we give first priority to God? Are we seriously interested in God? If yes, that's about it. Rest automatically will happen. Activities will happen. Your connection with God will happen. Samipyam will naturally happen, because now you're desperate. Everything flows from that, isn't it? And in this parlance, let me narrate my experience. My first hunger pangs for Swami, or if I say Samipyam to the Divine Master, came at the age of 9 years. Okay, when I was a very tiny tot. So all of you know I'm living in Mumbai. So Dharmakshetra Swami's residence in Mumbai is where Swami used to regularly visit in those days. Okay, and one of those darshans, when I was sitting with as a tiny tot with my parents, Swami came for darshan, took a round, and sat in a car and went up. I don't know how many of you know in Dharmakshetra, there is a slope. You know, Swami's Satyadeep residence is on a hill and the darshan ground is below. So Swami finished the darshan round, got into his car and it went in a steep slope. And as a tiny tot, I never knew where, Swami went. So imagine at the age of 9, what my imagination is. This is God. God came for darshan and God went back to heaven because God lives in heaven. Imagine the age of 9 years, what my thought process is, because we are taught, right? God lives in heaven. Swarga Loka in Sanskrit that we say. So I actually felt Swami came for darshan and went straight up. So up means where he went to heaven. So as I was seeing the car going to the heaven, which is actually going to Satyadeep Swami's residence, as a tiny tot, what did I see? Behind the car of Swami, there was a long, single line queue that was formed. Who were practically of my age, 8, 9 years then. 8, 9 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 11 years maximum, but tiny tots wearing white shirt, white trouser, who were in that one queue and actually queue towards going up. So I realized, oh, if you wear white and white, then you can go to heaven with God. So when I saw this, I started asking my mother, where are these kids going? Do I also get white and white dress to reach God? And then she said, these are Balvika's children and they are going up for a program. The Swami has called them on the top. So still, I was not very clear. I said, Swami has called, means if you wear white and white, if you are Balvika's child, you can go to heaven with God. And then it began from there, the entire journey of Samipyam. I want to be a Balvika student. I want to wear white and white. And this was desperation, means I was mad behind it. And I kept on pestering my parents. I want to join Balvikas. Because simple thing I saw, that one vision, you wear white and white. If you're a Balvika's child, you will go to heaven with God. Simple. There was no complications, no question marks. I don't care it is Satyadeep or hill or whatever it is. I saw the God going to the heaven. I saw the list of, the small line of tiny tots who were actually of my age, also going to heaven with God. And that is where the desperate interest, means I was like mad, I want to go to heaven with God. That's about it. That was my purpose of life. I had put a statement in my head and pestered my parents. And finally, one fine day, I got a chance to be part of the Balvikas group immediately within short while, because I was desperate. And I actually told my Balvikas guru this entire experience. And I said, now I'll be able to go to heaven with God. And she had a hearty laugh. She said, okay, so you have that. It's a good ambition to have, but it'll take some time. And she was very kind. I think all Balvikas gurus are mothers, they take very, very good care of children. So she didn't discourage me. She encouraged. And Bhagwan sends right people in her life at the right time. First, he instilled that desire, that interest, desperate interest. I want to be with God. And then to fire that interest, she brought Balvika's guru in my life, who said, nurture this, but at the right time it will happen. She didn't discourage. She said, go ahead. So as Balvikas happened few years later on, she said, now you should aim for becoming Swami's student. See, my Balvikas guru. So how it all began, the reason, the root cause of that desperation and then that interest in God slowly leading towards him. So then she said, now is the time you need to become from Balvika student, now you start looking at becoming Swami student. So I said, what is Swami student? Obviously, I hardly knew as a tiny tot. And then obviously she narrated, Swami has a university in Puttaparthi. There also people wear white and white. They get everyday darshan with Swami. Swami talks to them. And one of my, uncles actually went and became a student just a year before, 2 years before I joined Puttaparthi. So then I actually met him. So with all this context being created by none other than Swami himself, instilling the desire, instilling the interest, getting the right people at the right time and fueling that desire to be with him. And finally, when I saw my uncle joining Puttaparthi, he joined for MBA and I was still in school. So I regularly started visiting Parthi to listen to his stories. So more than Swami's darshan, I was like, what has happened in a student's life? Because he was a student. So he said, the Swami came and gave us this, Swami spoke about this and all kinds of amazing experiences. And that actually took the fire of desire to be with God. Though Swami says have less desire, this one desire to be with God at any cost rose to a level where I said I cannot wait anymore. I want to be with him, come what may. And that desire took me to Bhagwan's institution. In my 11th standard, when I applied, in Swami's school, in fact, the entire entry was very dramatic because, this is the entire, I'm showing you the building blocks to that stage, that how Samipyam actually happens. So after doing all this, firing this so much of desperate interest in God, a time came when I applied for my 11th standard. I couldn't wait. In fact, I was counting my days and hours. And when I got a call letter for an entrance examination, I actually felt like framing it. This is a call from Bhagwan. Admission is still far away. I have not even passed the entrance test. But a call has come from Puttaparthi. That was enough for me to fuel, because that every second, every moment I was counting my time. And finally, the entrance test happened. Okay. Now, I'll give you a little bit of background. Entrance test is again made up of 4-5 sections. So typically, even in my 11th standard, we have, even today, if you go to Puttaparthi and apply for 11th, it's not a straightforward, okay, you got a mark sheet, okay, you're qualified, go and join 11th standard. It's not that way. Mark sheet is just a basic to get that call letter. After that call letter, obviously, you are looked into, you go through the written test, you go through the entire interview. They actually try and see whether you have passed, you have got aptitude and everything. So in that written test, we had 4-5 sections. So obviously you have got reasoning, English literature, and all kinds of, the typically that we have. I don't even remember now all of them, but only one thing which I remember was the most dreadful section which I had in that written entrance test was the quantitative methods or quantitative techniques or something connected to mathematics, where, we have to answer 25 questions in 30 minutes. Obviously, they're all multiple choice, means just pick one choice and then you are done. But a mathematics paper, 25 questions in 30 minutes to answer, a lot of working to be done to even arrive at one answer. So that was the most dreadful section. I worked hard to ensure that I honed my skills to answer those, but somehow it was not getting over me. Somehow I was not comfortable despite working very hard. Finally, the day of entrance test came. I cleared all the sections very beautifully, very easily, because a lot of hard work practice had gone, again, fueled by desire to be with God. So all those sections went very comfortably. Then came this dreadful section of mathematics or quantitative methods, as we call it. Out of 30 minutes, I could answer in the first 25 minutes. Okay, out of 30 minutes, first 25 minutes, I could answer only 2 questions. So there are 25 questions, 30 minutes. End of 25 minutes of the time duration, I could answer only 2 out of 25 questions, which I was not sure whether they're right or wrong. If they're wrong, then practically I'll achieve a 0. And if you're 0, obviously you're failed. And the entire thing was, if you fail in the entrance test, even in one section, you're out. There's no question of for you to get inside. No question of getting shortlisted for the subsequent interview that will come. So you can imagine that is a precarious situation I was in. Fortunately, there was no negative marking, but 2 questions which I was not sure whether I was right. And that is where then the first warning, kind of bell came that 5 more minutes left, please wind up your paper. And I was looking at my paper and I said, my God, I've just done 2 and I've yet to go, and there are 5 minutes and there are 23 questions to go. I started praying to Swami, and I could sense that, this is something which I may not cross. My intense desire which Swami had fueled, for almost 5-6 years till then, is now almost on the verge of not getting, the result of it, not achieving or crossing the barrier. And that is precisely, I started praying to Swami in that entrance hall, examination hall. I said, Swami, what do? I don't know. I desperately want to be with you. That intense desire which you fueled, I'm in a white and white, but I need to be your student. I want to be with you in the heaven. And then Pat came an idea. Okay, what was that idea? Somewhere somebody had told me. See the timing of the idea popping in your head. Somewhere somebody told me that in case you don't get answers, just follow Om Sai Ram technique. It will be done. I don't know how many of you know Om Sai Ram technique. Okay, this is, I think probably it became more popular much later on. for the entrance examination, but in those days, hardly people knew. So Om Sai Ram technique is very simple. Each question has 5 choices, A, B, C, D, E. You have to just pick one of them and move to the next question. And then second question again has 5. So every question has 5 choices. Pick one of them, tick one of them, move. Om Sai Ram technique is the A, B, C, D, E. So A is Om, B is Sai, C is Ram. So Ram came on the C, tick C. Then Om for the next is again the D of that, the same question becomes Om, E becomes Sai, the A of the next question becomes Ram. Okay, A came, tick the Ram. B, C, D, Om, Sai, Ram. So D is the next, tick Ram. So that is how I went into flow. Okay, you will not believe. In 2 minutes, I completed the remaining 23 questions because nothing to read. I didn't even read the questions. I didn't even read the answer. Just said Om Sai Ram. Wherever Ram came, I went on ticking it. And I finished the paper on time, gave it, came out. The moment I came out of the entrance examination hall, lot of us obviously were talking to each other. How was your paper? What did you see? What was difficult? So I was also discussing the same. And they said, how did you finish all the 25 questions? Means we were struggling to finish even 5, and some of them could do 10, and 10 was like, wow. And you could finish 25, how it is possible. So I told them I did this Om Sai Ram technique, and they said, have you gone mad? You've taken such a big risk. You don't know where it will go. You not even read the question paper. You just went on answering the questions, Ram, and then you did it. And I said, see, whatever it is, this is the best I could do, because I had only 2 questions which I had answered. I didn't know whether it was right or wrong. I just did this, and it's up to Swami to take care of it. So entrance happened, results we yet to know, but somehow my name figured into the interview list, the subsequent interview list. So I could realize, chalo, I've crossed my entrance examination. Now I'm in the interview list. In the interview list, I mean, once the interview came into the picture, it was cakewalk interview. Means the questions are, what time you get up in the morning, what food you like, which games you watch regularly, what are your favorite subjects, what do you read in your leisure time, what other skills you have got, which like you don't need to prepare. Like all of us are, it's natural. Like you're asking about my personality, I don't have to prepare for it. It's natural. It was a cakewalk interview. And the you can see the punch of that interview came in the last question when they asked me. They asked the question, if we select you, will you be happy to join us? Now imagine the panelists, very eminent people in Parthi. I was I think 15-year-old, because 15 or 16 years old. In my 11th standard, I was going for entrance. And they're asking me this question. And I could immediately realize, moment they say, if we select you, will you be happy to join us? I said, naturally, and this is the most important thing which I want. I will definitely join. There's no questions about it. All of them had a nice broad smile. He said, you can go. And it was, my heart told, you are inside. That's about it. I ran, moment I crossed the threshold of the interview room, I ran out of joy in that, entire garden of the school, which is there outside. And I was like, literally, running around out of joy. And, people asked me what went wrong with you. I said, not wrong. Everything has gone right. And I am through. I know I'm going to get this seat. And obviously the answer was, I got the seat. But you can say the heart of the story is yet to happen. So once I got the seat, okay, after I joined Parthi, I was still kind of curious to know, where has that Om Sai Ram technique went? So then I asked, I came to know from, the internal, obviously, once you join the school, you come to know which are your teachers and what they teach and all that, and who was the person who corrected the paper. So I, went and requested him, and he said, no, I'm not supposed to reveal you the result. You're not supposed to know this. I said, no, sir, it is, somehow I want to know, and, I request you and all that. And then he was like, why are you so desperate to know? You selected, right? Be happy you joined Parthi. Why you want to know where that, where your answers? And I had not shared with him the Om Sai Ram yet. But since he was, repeatedly asking you why you are keen to know, then I shared with him, this is something I did. Then he became curious. He said, okay, let me see. And he went inside. He searched out the paper. He looked at the results. And then he came out of the room where he had seen the paper. He said, are you sure you did Om Sai Ram technique? I said, yes. He said, see, I generally don't want to reveal this to anybody, but since you're so desperate and a miracle has happened, that's why I'm with divine permission, I'm just speaking to you. And he said, see, Siddharth, I don't know, this is Bhagwan's grace. you have stood first in the entrance test. You have topped the papers. And this is, as I'm telling you, I'm getting goosebumps right now. Because I'm reliving that experience when he said you topped the entrance test. I was like, it's not that Om Sai Ram technique is the answer to all problems. Okay, Bhagwan says how much effort you have put in. I had slogged my, my time out to actually prepare for this, and when the final time came, when I know I couldn't deliver, I said, God, it's up to you. You want me inside, get it done. I have put my efforts. When Swami says 95% efforts and 5% grace, 95% efforts were there. I'm not telling out of pride, but it is he who motivated me to put those efforts. And 5% grace actually took me through the shore. But again, the story is yet to complete. Okay, this all happened. Let me take few days before I joined school. Okay, let me take few days before I joined the school. 5th of June is the date when was the reporting date of the school.
Unheard of for a fish to attack.
Sorry. So 5th was the joining date, 5th June. And in those days, obviously, now we have a house in Parthi. We didn't have a house, so we had taken a room inside, and Swami was in Vrindavan. So it's very easy to get rooms in Parthi. So once I joined, got a room inside, 4th June, we took a room. 5th morning at 4 a.m. 5th June morning at 4 a.m. My mom woke me up. She said, fast, get ready, you have to join Swami school. So I woke up, I said 4 a.m. means why I need to get up at 4 a.m. to join a school? Means nobody is going to allow me either way inside, right? So I asked her, why you want me to wake up now and join? Means we will definitely wake up on time and, get ready and join an entire day. There's no time given that only at 5 a.m. you have to report. You can report at 10, 12, 1 afternoon, whenever you want to report, but report on 5th of June. So she said, no, it's not that. It's just that I got a dream this moment. And that's why I've got up from that dream and I'm telling you. And then she said, what was the dream? My mother got this dream. Okay. In that dream, in that same room, which we had taken inside ashram, there was a knock on the door. And then she opens the door in the dream and there is Swami standing there. And Swami just gets inside quickly and, he just doesn't wait. He keeps asking my mother, where is Siddharth? And my mother says he has gone for bath. She's getting ready. So Swami doesn't say, look here and there. He straight away walks to the bathroom, knocks the door of the bathroom very hard. Till, I'm still having bath. So I was wondering why parents are doing this when I know. But somehow it went on. And finally, I couldn't resist. So I just kind of, opened the door and I said, who is this kind of who's knocking? And it was Swami who was standing there. And Swami told me in that dream, in my mother's dream, that I've been waiting for you to join. You are still taking time. Get ready fast and join the school. This dream came at 4 a.m. in the morning on the day of joining, 5th of June. One thing, why I'm sharing this, again, I'm getting a lot of goosebumps, and I know Bhagwan is sitting right here. In his presence, I'm telling you this, that if we are desperate for God, He's multiple times desperate for us to come to Him. He's mad. I can tell. God is mad behind His devotees. He cannot live without us. Question is, are we able to give that commitment to Him? For Him, there is no near and dear. He has given Himself to us. He said, take me, I'm yours. And this is an example which I learned when I'm sharing with you. I also learned this, that when we are absolutely desperate for God, God is even more desperate than me. That is a realization came to me, that He is more desperate than me. So it is nothing that I have done great. It is just that He is desperately waiting. And this entire episode, if we extend to our life, is only telling us, I have been waiting for very many years that someday you will come to me. And that is that first step. You take one step. I'll come running, because He is actually, in the relay race, in a 100-meter dash, before we actually start the race, the people are, kneeling down with one leg ahead and one behind. It's like moment you shot and then he runs. That is where God currently stands for us. He Himself is on a running race. At moment you shoot, I'm there. And obviously God is faster than any, Usain Bolt or anybody in the world. to reach us. So this is something which is a great lesson, that if we are desperate for God, God is even more desperate than us. It's just that matter of time. If we show that desperate to Him, He comes running for us. And that's why Swami says again and again, I don't want anything from Him. What I need is only love. You love me, that's enough. That's a greatest gift. In fact, it's not even a gift. The love is given by Him only, which we are paying back to Him. It doesn't belong to us. It is His love we are giving back to Him. But this is how an episode of Samipyam, the near and dear, before you become near and dear, the desperate interest. I want to be with God. I want to be with God. I want to be with God. And that is where that entire heaven, that entire, the scene which I told you, those Bal Vikas kids, white and white, Bal Vikas joining, and Bal Vikas guru telling me to, look for Puttaparthi, and then my uncle coming and staying in Puttaparthi, and then actually narrating those, all those fruition came. Those are building blocks to achieve Samipyam in our life. And I'm telling you, once you have God in your life, it is absolutely brilliant. It's probably the most beautiful life we will be leading. It doesn't matter, Corona becomes a blessing for us, because He decides whether we should be infected or not. Once He decides, it's always good for us. If He wants me to be infected, so be it. That is also His prasadam. If He doesn't want me to be infected, He will ensure that it doesn't get through. So all the fears, all the problems of life disappears in one shot. Because you know that He is taking care. He is in the driving seat. He is the Krishna who is running the chariot of life. That's why He Himself named Sanatana Sarathi. When He's driving, where is the problem? So that is something which is absolutely, we are all fortunate. That's why I said in the beginning that if you have an avatar in our life, it is that make the best use of this opportunity to build that relationship. This will never come again. In the next life, we don't know whether we'll get chance again to have those 5 things in our life together. But here, right now, we have it. It doesn't matter. Swami may not have physical body today, but all of us would have definitely felt His presence yesterday in all the programs that we did, because He attends all the programs. Whether we attend or not, He attends the programs. So He's there with us even now. It's important how we build that relationship. And that's why the first step of this is where I thought I'll share with you that Om Sai Ram technique was just an excuse. But there is a big lesson which God taught me personally, which I thought of sharing with you, is this, that do we have an intense desire to be with God and have complete faith in Him? Complete faith in Him. And the moment we have faith in Him, it can move mountains. All of us know faith can move mountains. Okay. And now it's almost 10:13, but I'll share a couple of more experiences. I got loads to share. In fact, I can go for another 3-4 hours. But because of the time constraint, let me share one more experience with you, where you will wonder that you are listening to an idiot and nobody else. Now you may wonder I'm making it in such a big statement, but yes, you will wonder that you are listening to an idiot who, after showing so desperate interest in God and God choosing him to be part of His institution, one fine day, he decides to leave the place. That's why I said you will feel end of this experience, you're listening to an idiot. But I'll tell you how it all happened. This was my MBA entrance test. Okay, I'm fast tracking my time because 11th standard I joined, so I'm 5 years ahead. There are lots of things happen in those 5 years, but time constraint. We'll just move to most important aspects. 5 years hence, I was appearing for an MBA entrance test. Okay, I had done my 11th, 12th standard. I had done my bachelor's in commerce in Vrindavan campus. Then I was coming back to Puttaparthi for my MBA entrance test. Here, nothing dramatic happened. The entrance, went through very smoothly. I appeared for the entrance test. Written test went very well. Group discussion went very well. Interviews went very well. So there was no challenges, no trouble whatsoever. Everything happened. 8th of May, year 2000, 21 years ago. We are almost near to May. So 8th of May, 21 years ago, 8th of May, year 2000. I was in Vrindavan. After my entrance test, everything got through. Results were awaited. I went to Vrindavan because I was still a student then, so we could attend that most blessed Trai sessions that you would have heard. So I went to Vrindavan. hardly 100 odd students and Swami. So it is like a almost everyday private interview types. Because Swami used to call us in Trai Mandir in his house after the evening bhajans. And we used to spend almost 2 hours together in that house. So Swami sitting on the jhula, talking to us and discourses and everything. And you know, sometimes he'll have crack jokes or sometimes there'll be some elders sharing their experiences. It was a beautiful time. So I went to Vrindavan to continue to enjoy the Trai sessions. 8th of May, you know, as Swami came out, Swami actually lives on the top floor of the Trai Vrindavan, you know, that lotus-shaped bungalow that is there in Whitefield, Bangalore. Swami came out and all boys were seated. And I was, in fact, on that day, I got a last line. So somewhere in the fag and, you know, where I could hardly take a glimpse of Swami's hair. Because Swami sits in the jhula and once he sits, you know, only his hair can be seen. So only hair I could see. So that is where I was seated. Swami spoke to few students on the way to his jhula. And then before he could sit on the jhula, he was standing and looking at the entire, you know, set of students who were in front of him. And then his gaze came towards my side where I was, and I was in the last. I mean, there was nobody behind me. I was the last person in the entire, you know, setup. And Swami's gaze came straight away focused on me. So he looked at me, and see, thing is, it's quite far. So I don't even know whether he's looking at me or looking at a set of people in the last row. So we just looked at Swami and we were standing like this. And Swami looked at me and said something to the principal. So everybody started looking behind. And they looked obviously towards the last row. And finally, when I looked behind, there's nobody behind me. So I just kept quiet because I didn't know what was happening. And then there was some laughter. Then again, Swami looked at me and he could obviously make out that this guy is useless. He doesn't understand anything. I'm looking at him and talking about him, but he doesn't understand. So he looked at me and he said, you. In English, loudly he said, he pointed a finger at my side, you. So I said, you, again, who you? You know, that Mand Buddhi didn't click to me. After that, in those days, I used to wear spectacles. So Swami said, you spectacle boy. And still more, Mand Buddhi, around next to me, there's one more spectacle boy. So I asked him, you know, Swami is asking about you. He said, no, I think Swami is talking about you. Finally, you know, Swami actually gave up. He said, no point in asking these boys. So everybody laughed. Then Swami said something to the principal and then sat on his jhula. The Trai sessions began. Now, thing is, Trai sessions are so nectar and so beautiful that you don't want them to end, because it's like you are one with God in that session, in that room, and Swami is narrating some extraordinary stories and beautiful episodes of his life about Ramayana, Mahabharata and all that. But that Trai session, I was counting time when it will end, because something has happened which I want to know, and it's something about me, it looks like. So I somehow, you know, I waited for the Trai sessions to get over, and the moment it got over, we came out, and I was the last one because I was last in. So I was, you know, the last one to come out of the room. And principal was waiting outside, and moment he saw me, was all smiles. He said, Siddharth, you have been selected as in the MBA seat. This is what Swami was pointing at you and saying, this boy, he said, selected. And I was like, and results are yet to announce, by the way. The importance of this occasion is results are yet to be announced. They're not official announcement yet. Entrance I had given and I had come to Vrindavan to attend his darshans and everything. But Swami gave the results ahead of the official announcement. So Swami said, you are selected. And he pointed a finger and said, this boy is selected. And moment he said this, I was like, wow, you know, I immediately called my parents and I said, see, you know, this is what happened in the Trai session, and Swami spoke about me and he said, you are selected for the MBA. And it was evening of jubilation. Principal was very happy. He said, Swami telling you to be selected means, you know, it is not a small thing. Swami doesn't use his words and he loosely just like that. So more than he even went into a more spiritual zone, he said, forget about MBA entrance. He said, you are selected. That's enough. You are with him. So obviously, these are all very beautiful statements. I absorbed it. I enjoyed it. And I had a very beautiful night. Went to a good sleep. Came next day, 9th of May. 9th of May, evening, results announced. Okay. After Trai session, we came to know. Rumor spreads. Results have come. Notice board. All of us ran from Trai session. We stayed, went to the hostel. The results were announced. And strangely, there are two courses then. One was MBA, other one was MFM. MFM is Masters in Financial Management, and MBA, all of us know, Master in Business Administration. Now, when I saw the list, my name was in Masters in Financial Management, and my heart sank. Heart sank because finance is something is not my cup of tea then. I always thought finance is not for me. It's not, I'm not made for finance. I am either an HR or marketing person, and a master's in finance means 2-year full-time finance courses I have to go through. It's like an ordeal that I have to go through. And I said, this is not something which I wanted. And my heart sank. You know, we have to be very careful in this journey. Why I'm giving you so much of background, narration and details of this is this journey with God, this relationship with God, even after Samipyam, the mind is very, very, very tricky. In a trice, the mind forgot the previous evening when God said you are selected, and it sank into a situation of, you know, it started getting into a state that whether I'm in a right place, do I need to do this course? Can I ask a principal to change? You know, the results are announced. Now there's no way to change. And the question is, why change? Because if for Swami, everybody is MBA student. He never differentiated Masters in Finance or Masters in Business Administration. It was same. He treated all of us as same MBA students. For him, it didn't matter. But for me, you know, this mind sees pieces. As Swami says, no, more than the piece, you start seeing pieces. Started looking in small, small units. And I asked myself, is it? And then I obviously called my parents. I told them that, you know, this is what happened. I'm not happy with this. Somehow, what do I do? So my father was quite, you know, neutral about things. He just said, see, if you feel that if you're not comfortable, you come to Bombay. Come to Mumbai, you know, we'll find somebody, something better with you of your liking. And when I heard that night, I got into a rumination mode. And then I realized, yeah, probably time has come for me to go back to Bombay. Imagine. At the same time, there is a heart which was given to God in the very first instance, which I told you. Heart was saying, what on earth you're thinking like this? God has told you selected and you want to leave him and go? Mind is saying nothing doing. I cannot bear finance. I have to go. Huge turmoil. Entire 9th of May night, I couldn't sleep. 10th morning, when I woke up, it was like, you know, I'm still into that state. And I was not in a position to kind of, you know, figure out what do I do. And I was in a state of flux. But God is all the time observing us. So 10th May, same. Next day when I woke up, 10th May in the evening, Bhagwan again called everybody for Trai session. I was quiet because internal there's a huge strife. Heart and mind are pulling me into two pieces. And God comes to your rescue. So evening, when he called for Trai session, fortunately, I was just a 2-second row next to Jhula. It was like one boy ahead of me and I was just behind. And Swami was like this close. That Trai session, normally what Swami does in a Trai session, he may tell some of the students to speak or some of the guests to speak or share experiences or teachers to speak. And if time permitting, depends, you know, he will call for a mic and he'll give a discourse. And this discourse is not a formal discourse, it's a very informal interaction. But that day, he was very serious on his face. He didn't ask anybody. He just said, I want a mic. He took the mic. Okay, he started speaking. Entire discourse, he looked into my eyes and spoke. See, I was not very far off where he just see, you know, abroad this thing. I was just 2 lines behind. I mean, just next to Swami's Jhula, and Swami was like this close. He was bending into my eyes, full 1 hour of discourse. He looked into my eyes and spoke. Obviously, we don't have chance to discuss all the important details of that 1 hour discourse, but the most important point is said. Again, a divine master, a divine guru, an avatar will never tell you stay or go. It doesn't give a direct directions. He will tell us through a chinna katha or anecdote or analogy. Because he is a sweetheart, he will never tell us which we can't, you know, we are not in a position to accept it. He will not. He will tell us very beautifully in a nice story. And what story he said, you know, I'll narrate that story. It is something which is not just applicable to this being, but it is for all of us. because we are already into his fold. Okay, so hear me out what that story was. He was saying in that discourse, imagine a train journey. Okay, Swami is narrating this. Imagine a train journey. Train, in that journey, one father is there, few children are there, his sons. Okay, father, few children, his sons are there. The journey is on. Because children are small, who has that ticket? Is asking a rhetorical question. Who has that ticket? There is a pause. And then he says, father has the ticket. The children are tiny tots. They can't be holding the ticket. So father has a ticket of all the children. But then a station comes in that journey. And one of the child thinks it wants to get down. What happens if he gets down? Question mark. Rhetorical question. Again, he's pausing. You know, the mind has to absorb what he's telling. If the child gets down, he will not be with his father. He will not have his ticket. So the station master will catch hold of him, will put him in behind the bars, or put him in some place where he'll be lost. The father is gone, ticket is gone, train is gone. The child is left alone. So what is the child supposed to do? Again, a rhetorical question and a pause. And then he says, child should not get down on the station. Continue with the journey with the father, because the father has his ticket in his hand. You know what? When he was sharing this story, I was having tears in my eyes, because I knew what he's telling me. He's looking into my eyes and telling, he's not looking somewhere else. He's looking into my eyes and he's telling that I have your ticket. Don't get down, my son. You're with me and have faith in me. I'll take care of you. This was the sum and substance of that discourse, which he looked into my eyes and spoke. For 1 hour, God invested that time of 1 hour into a person who was willing to let him go. And that's why I repeat that statement. More than us, God is even more desperate to be nearer and dearer to us than anybody else in the world. When we think about Samipyam, we want to be near and dear, but God is even more desperate to be nearer and dearer to us, because he wants to see, I want to sit in your heart, don't allow anybody else, that is my sofa. He always said, heart is not a musical chair, it is a single seat sofa, and that is my place. Allow me to sit and see what I do with you. And after that entire discourse, I was non-stop in my tears, because I knew he's answering my questions so beautifully. I don't have an iota of doubt left in me that this is something, it's God's own initiative. He wants me to do something which is, he knows best. I don't know about my future. You know, many times we say, Swami, you are not answering my prayer. What is the point? Natural question comes to us. You're not answering my question. Not answering my prayer. But thing is, here in this episode also teaches us that more than answering is, he has answered more than what has been asked also. Because we are looking at today. What do I want for today? So my entire focus is today. And I pray and make a choice for today. But God, as a parent, as a father in that story, he looks at a long-term future. He sees past, present, future, and he gives something which is far more better than what we are, asking for, which is just looking at today. Question is, do we have a faith in his response? I went through my difficult times. It's not I was happy and easy. I realized after this discourse, I came back, I was completely silent because I was absorbing, and it came as a, who am I, yaar? This guy is an ordinary guy. It doesn't hold anything in the life. A 16, 17, 20-year-old chap, and the God is investing 1 hour telling him, don't leave me and go, because you may leave me, but I will never leave you. He always said to us, right? You may leave me, but I will never leave you. This is actually, he was practicing and telling, you want to go, but your ticket is in my hand. I will not allow you to go. After that session, I came back. I was silent. and I just called up my parents after some time. I said, I don't know about future. I don't know about my likes and dislikes, but my ticket is in Swami's hand. I will stay. I don't care whether I like it, I pass or I fail. I don't know. I don't know about my future, but I'll stay. I went through my difficult phase. First semester in that course was very tough for me. But then God sends right people at the right time, as I said in the beginning. There came a professor in finance who explained so beautifully that I fell in love with the subject. And I'm telling you, I'm reaping the benefits of Swami's decision then to put me into finance today. And probably now I realize, if I would have been in marketing, I would have been a horrible employee in the organization. I didn't know about my future, but I only saw my present and said, Mujhe, I want to do marketing for HR, I don't want finance. But this is something, when God decides something, it is always good for us because He sees past, present, future. And that is how I stayed back, and I obviously got my MBA seat, got it done. And obviously, we are past 10:30. I know it's 1 o'clock for you guys. Lunch is waiting. But umpty number of stories means God actually lives and breathes for us. If I have to conclude, He lives for us. It doesn't live for anything else. He is a desperate, for our love. Nothing more than that. And He makes His presence felt all the time. All the time. He doesn't, when the time comes when the body, the mind, space is all been transcended. When He comes and says, I'm going to live with you forever. Only thing is, are we ready to receive Him? When I passed out from my education after 7 years being at Bhagwan's feet, year 2002, when I passed out, on my last day, Swami called me in the interview room. He gave me vibhuti packets. He was having little heavy heart, I'm going. And I didn't want to go, but he had told me, no, I want you to be outside. He said, you leave and go. You go to Mumbai and do service. That was his command. And actually in my heart, I wanted to stay back, but he said, you go. And then he materialized a vibhuti, gave me a Path Namaskar, and he had decided my future, which was against my wishes. As always we say, why Swami didn't answer my prayer, but he knows best. So when he was sending me out, I just asked him, Swami, you be with me all the time. And he said, I am with you, in you, above you, below you, around you. This is a famous statement. All of us would have heard it many times. And I also heard it many times. I took it for granted. Swami says like that. Let's see. That was mind. So I came out of the interview room, evening train, took to Mumbai, came back next day. The very first night in my house, now as alumni or alumnus or ex-student of Bhagwan, I had passed out. The first night when I came in my house, there came a dream. In that dream, in that house which I am staying, Bhagwan comes, stands on the main door, and he just has a look at all the rooms. He just looks at, and suddenly he says, this is the room where I'll be staying. He looks at, this is the room I'll be staying. I'm just looking at the entire scene. He walks straight inside that room. I don't know what he does because I'm trying to chase, and Swami is very fast in walking. So, in those days, most of us would have seen the last few days on wheelchair, but Swami, when he was walking, he was very fast. Difficult to pick pace with him. He walks straight inside the room. This is the room I'm going to stay. And after that, there's a washroom attached, and Swami actually went into the washroom, started using the washroom. And then, as I was waiting for him outside, the dream ended. But when I woke up from that dream, it came as a realization that Swami said, I'm always with you, in you, above you. And actually, he came, I will not say physically, because physically it's difficult to see him, but he actually came with me after I passed out from Puttaparthi. He came with me to my house and said, I'm going to live in this room. He chose his own room. He was using the washroom. So, these are the symbols that he's settled down. He's settled down in this house. And see, why I'm again sharing is, do you need a body for this kind of an experience? You don't need. He's beyond time and space. Okay, and see, we may become his students, his devotees. Those are different tags. But ultimately, when you build a relationship with him, he's permanently with us. Whether in this life or next life, it doesn't matter. isn't it? And that's why I make that statement again. This is the best return on investment. It's an eternal returns. You continue to reap benefits forever. And there are no side effects, no downside risk in this investment. It's only upside positives. And that's why this is the best investment that we need to have in our life. You know, to conclude this entire session, there are at least another set of experiences which I had listed down to speak today, but time is short. So I'll conclude it. This last episode or last anecdote, in fact, not even experience, it's an anecdote which all of you would have heard it also. Swami himself says this. If you want to hang Swami's picture on the wall, what will you do? First, pick up a nail, pick up hammer. Okay, you go on hammering onto the wall. After you hammered enough, will you straight away go and put the photograph of Swami there? Definitely no. Because one more step we will do. What we will do? We'll try and see whether the nail is really well, kind of inside or not. Right? After once you are convinced, yes, the nail is now well kind of, it's stable. It is perfect and it's stable in where it is. Then you will be comfortably with all your conviction. You will be putting the photograph of Swami. Swami says this is what God also does with his devotees. Once he has picked up the nail, which is us as devotees, okay, he has picked, since all of us are in Swami's fold, each one of us a nail which is already picked by Bhagavan. We are in his hands. See, he has chosen among the so many nails, he's handpicked few nails like us. And now he's putting on the wall and he's hammering. And many times we wonder, after coming to Swami's fold, so many problems have come in our life. Why is it so, Swami? What is the point of following Swami? Why it is so troublesome to follow Swami? Because right now we're just hammering and seeing whether you withstand, do you have faith? I have handpicked you. Do you have faith? I'm going to trouble you, not because to make you, as not a sadistic pleasure to see you in trouble, but I want you to be absolutely firm in faith. So all the testing is happening. On one side, job loss happens. On one side, family problems happen. On one side, coronavirus, it infects you. On other side, you have got other trouble coming to you. All kinds of coming. So all that hammering is doing. And we still stand firm in his faith. Come what may, God, do whatever you want. I know you are doing good for me. Everything is good for me. And then he tries to shake. Nahi, this is a well hit. The faith is very strong. And once he's convinced, he says, now I am putting my photograph. And what does that photograph mean? Sayujyam. You are mine and I am yours. I will eternally put my photograph on you because you are one very steadfast in faith. Come what may, you will always be with me and I will be always with you. I'm just transgressing straight Samipyam, Sarupyam and Sayujyam. When God chooses that now you and I are one. Once you have the photograph on you, you and I are one. And once we are together, it's no longer our life. It is his life, his story. It's no longer my story, your story, somebody else's story. It is his story, which all of us sit, enjoy and witness it as the miracles unfold. Isn't it? The life becomes so beautiful. But before that, he goes through those hammering. So if any of us are going through those hammerings in the life, rest assured, God is on work. God is working on us to see, are you there with me? Are you there with me? If you are no, he'll put it behind. If it is not steadfast in faith, he'll remove it and put a next nail on it. We don't want that to happen to us. So we need to be there, steadfast in faith, come what may, everything is good for me. And that equanimity when we achieve, when it comes out of realization that God loves so much that he will never harm us. Everything happens by his will, his grace. It is good for me only. That's about it. Once that, and he tests that several times. Once he is convinced, photograph is hung on us, we achieve Sayujyam with him. There are many episodes of Samipyam, very interesting episodes of Samipyam and Sarupyam are there. But ultimately, if we achieve Sayujyam, we have transcended all those steps. So, to conclude, all the 5 important things, we are highly blessed to be in this life, what we are leading, because of all the beautiful things that are happened. So we need to count our blessings. Second thing is, having got this blessing, what are we supposed to do? Build that relationship with an avatar which he has come. He has come out of our heart to say, here I am, please connect with me. And once we connect, he goes back to the heart. And once he goes back into the heart, it's a permanent relationship established forever. So an avatar's purpose was to get out of the heart and say, here I am, please build relationship with me because I'll take you to the highest level. And once we have achieved that relationship, rest assured it is his story. Who are we? There is no Siddharth left in this story. It is Satya Sai Baba's story, Avatar's story. It is his grace, his will. He does everything. He thinks, he eats, he sleeps, he inspires. And we are left just a mere witness to the beautiful leelas that he performs day in and day out. And finally, our life becomes his story. So with this, I offer this entire session at Bhagwan's feet on behalf of all of us, for giving us this rare opportunity to think about him, his message, his story, and most importantly, today onwards, we'll carry him in our hearts. And once we carry in our hearts, that's it. Life becomes a story. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and loving Sai Rams, and have a wonderful, blissful Sunday and a blissful life ahead with Swami. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, brother, it was really, really soulful, wonderful, and it was like reinventing, reseeking the divinity within. We all are blessed to have you for this time, but definitely not the last time. We have these fortnightly satsangs where different speakers join, but I would also request you sometime in future. We'll again request your presence, and please oblige us that time to help us guide through in the sessions that come up. So that is one thing. And brothers and sisters, it was beautiful to join on the Sunday afternoon with Brother Siddharth. I'm sure we all are inspired to reconnect with the divine. He has gone nowhere. He came out to connect to us and again has gone within, so that is cemented further. Just to end the session in what Brother Siddharth has just ended with, I'll just picturize it so that we all capture it in our images. What he said so beautifully has been in this particular one. He talked about interest. This was fabulous. Taking interest in Bhagavan leads us into developing a kind of a relationship. A positive attitude leads us to getting into faith mode. And that builds up to start looking into the bigger picture. He said, nail, can we withstand the hammer and all? And we start looking into the picture. Yes, we can withstand Bhagavan by your grace. Acceptance comes in. Surrender flows in. It helps us. And the moment we come into him and accept everything what he has given, then he says, okay, you are mine, like what has happened to Brother Siddharth. With that note, let's remember, he reminded us, Brother Siddharth, that as much as we are seeking him, the God is also seeking us, right? With that note, Brother Siddharth, we are thanking you again and wishing everyone a blessed Sunday, a blessed week ahead in Corona times. Let's pray for Samasta Loka 3 times before we call off this session. Om Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om शांति शांति शांति। जय बोलिए भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय। Sai Ram, brothers and sisters. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, brother.
Sai Ram, brother.
Sai Ram. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, brother. Thanks.